I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:03. This meeting is being recorded by committee chairs. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chair at this time. Seeing none, we'll go to roll call.
President Bottomley,
Here,
Vice President Gilmore,
Here.
Counselor Bullock has not arrived yet. Counselor Golem,
Here.
Counselor Toronzo.
I'm here.
Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Excellent. And I'd just like to announce Counselor Gilmore is attending remotely. And we'll start right in with the president's notes. The first up is procedure for acceptance and review of executive session minutes, which is pretty straightforward, I think, but it should probably go to A&O. That's
Sure.
Fortune-
So just a question with
Yeah.
that. So, ANO this month, and should that be for discussion or for a motion? And is there,
Well, I guess it would be a motion to accept this procedure. Or you want,
Or if you wanted to review what had been put down and discuss it. I think it could be either, so
okay,
it doesn't need to be pushed through. It's not like
okay,
time sensitive.
okay,
We just want to have something written down so that future councils, this council can have a blueprint. So everybody knows how things should be done in accordance with open meeting.
okay.
So would you like it for discussion?
Let's put it for discussion, and if people are ready to vote, then we can vote.
Okay,
So that'd be also putting as a prospective motion.
So the way that we have our agenda is that there's motions, things that are under motions and
Mhm.
things that are under discussion. So if we put it under discussion, we can still make a motion to vote on it.
Backwards.
Backwards?
Well, I mean, no motions come before
They
discussion.
do.
So that's why.
For
I'm
some
asking
reason.
backwards.
That's a good question.
I mean, it doesn't matter if it's in subcommittee is what I guess I'm hashing out.
right, so if it's
It
on,
comes to full council is what I'm
right,
asking.
Yeah,
if it's on the agenda and it's listed under discussion, you don't have to make a motion to table, or you're just discussing it. And then you can say, okay, so we'll continue on this next month
At subcommittee.
at subcommittee. Or if it's under discussion and everyone is like, this is perfect.
Of course.
We need to send this on. A motion can be made and then.
Because that will be before, A&O is before the 5-day.
For the
Also,
council
for the
meeting.
council anyway,
Yes,
right?
yes,
That's where the,
yes.
okay, that's what your question was. Okay.
cool.
great.
Sure, yep.
The next one would also go to A&O, the proposed rules of
There you go.
procedure,
Yeah,
which is just adding something to the attendance. Clarifying if councilors are unable to attend, they need to notify president, vice president, committee chair, clerk. That's pretty straightforward too, but I think it should go to A&O.
yeah, that sounds good.
Discussion or motion?
Well, also, it's not, if it's for a motion, it can be tabled for is it, how important is this distinction between motion and discussion on the agenda?
So theoretically,
Yeah.
if it's under motion,
Yeah,
it's more likely to go from subcommittee to council. Discussion, you have time.
and that's really all that's my understanding too.
Right.
That's what it means.
Again, if at the meeting, you're like, oh, beautiful.
I'm liking having a precedent of things coming for discussion first. Just so I can hear from everyone, right? Yeah, And
Give the
then-
Public more time to,
that's right. It gives the public more time and it gives the counselors more time to think about it and have an open discussion. And if we're ready, then we can vote on it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
the next one is the update on scheduling a hearing, which was Counselor Bullock, so we'll put a hold on that one for now.
So August committee chairs?
Yeah. There's one appointment, the mayor's appointment, which there was a typo, it said Health Department, but it's a Board of Health appointment, which would go to A and O.
Yeah.
The next one is discussion with Energy Director. This came up I believe this came up at City Council last
Yeah.
time. And we were thinking EDC might be a place to discuss this, and I was thinking maybe even broaden it a little bit. To be like, maybe Carol could talk about, or Director Collins could talk about energy in general, maybe what she was trying to do, or we could leave it specific.
And is there going to be a financial order related to this? Like, do you have any sense of when the next financial order for vehicles will come?
I would assume next budget year.
Yeah, I haven't, there's nothing left that I recall on capital plan that had anything to do with vehicles that wasn't already covered. With the exception of maybe the big fire truck, but that wouldn't have anything to do. We're not getting an electric fire truck. I just want to point that out right now. That is like, I don't know the realm of that, but that is definitely not happening for probably till my kids are out of school.
But I don't know, it would be a good thing for
Right.
discussion, but I'm not sure if how that works, if we're having EDC this month or not.
Would it be? I don't want to do that, but would it be pertinent to just, for something like that, since we were just asking for an update, to just have that as like a communication from city department at the full council rather than have them, I mean, if they present a subcommittee, are we just gonna end up getting a report from subcommittee, like third party?
That was more
or-
my thought, but I mean, we could ask his questions in full council. I just thought people might want to go more in depth, which I don't
They may, I don't know.
know if that's great in full council, but for a first,
It could be, I mean, if it's just maybe it doesn't require,
but if you.
maybe there's not enough.
Technically, this
to
was
require
just
full
electric vehicles, so that, I think that's something that probably could come to full council.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about who requested it and if they're on, and I'm not honestly remembering everyone. I know that Counselor Wondolowski requested it. And I don't believe she on, I don't know what committee she's on. She.
I can't remember. I can look it up.
I would love to hear the update. If it's not super long, I just am not imagining it being that long, but who knows?
I mean, we could, I don't know, I was just saying, but we could leave it at subcommittee and then if it seems like there's enough to invite a future presentation to, if it's pretty much like she goes there, she's like, yeah, we're still trying, but it's not there yet. Like,
So do you want to put it on August EDC? I mean, I don't know if it's critical, since we don't have any vehicles coming up anyway.
I wouldn't want EDC to have to just meet for that. If there's nothing else on their agenda.
I mean, for not July, but you're saying for August.
Yeah, move
Yeah.
it to August,
Yeah.
because there might be more. So move that to August,
EDC August and send an invitation
yes.
Okay.
to just Carol or to Carol and the mayor.
I guess both.
Mhm.
Okay.
The next one, discussion with Recreation Director Christine Moore and the mayor about updates, legal expense fees, easements with the, about the trails and maps. I don't know what committee that would come under.
I don't
So it's kind of a cross, so fees, legal fees would be Ways and Means, easements would be more like EDC. Design and construction would have a cost to it, so Ways and Means. Yeah,
Would we just get an update at full council next month, like as invite Chrissy as a department head?
department head.
I would like that.
Okay,
So council,
Full council, update, under update from,
council
City.
employee,
yeah,
do you want to say 10-minute update, 10-minute Q&A, or do you just want to do do you want to set a time for efficiency, or what do you think?
I think it's like one topic. I don't think it should be, she's pretty good at presenting quickly.
Yeah, I just didn't know if
Yeah, if she's
Because-
presenting on that topic. I mean, you never know what questions are gonna surface
council
from that.
employee Christy Moore.
I don't think,
and
I really don't think it'd be like
Virginia.
more of a spill over
Okay.
10 minutes. Like, we're just trying to
Okay.
get.
kind of does
I
that.
just didn't know if you wanted to create an efficiency by putting a time on it.
Right.
That's all.
I appreciate the intent of that. I'm trying to keep things efficient. I haven't had her present many times, but I think if there could be no, like, we're not expecting a super long presentation,
Yeah.
just a
Mhm.
quick update.
Keep that dry.
So the next one is discussion with IT director and the mayor about cybersecurity. Which would be, an executive session.
Mhm.
And did we want that for this July?
If they're ready for it.
So. We should invite, yeah,
Can I, so along the cybersecurity vein, could we wait until August? Because the clerk's office may have some information to impart regarding elections.
that works for me.
Yeah.
August?
You sure?
August executive session,
Yep.
and we'll have to decide and talk whether it's going to be beginning of the meeting, end of the meeting. That sort of thing.
Which rule?
Well, there is definitely one reason for executive session, to go into to talk security. And that will be it. I think it's one or two, but I don't remember exactly what it is. Yeah. Shouldn't be a problem.
The next one was a little broader discussion of possible submission of proposed zoning amendments. Submitted by Councilor Garrett, and these. This I'd be curious where your input, because I was thinking, this looks like something that is kind of a broad. Discussion. That might want to have someone like the planning director and the chair of planning. Be invited to a discussion if this was gonna
At
happen.
EGC.
That's what I was thinking, because these are. We don't have a whole lot of history and there's been communication. Issues in the past, a lot of new people, it'd be really helpful to have a couple. Someone from planning board and the planning director there to.
So. It wouldn't create a quorum problem. Counselor Garrett is on the call. I was wondering if Counselor Garrett had spoken to anyone about this. Like, has he talked to Eric Tora? Did he talk to the zoning, anyone on the zoning board? Or is this the very beginning? Because if this is the very beginning, in my opinion, it could either go to EDC for a larger discussion, or if Counselor Garrett wanted to work with the planning department, the zoning chair, that sort of thing, to find out what they were thinking, because they have more knowledge, they have more experience to help define what could possibly be done or not. So I didn't know if any of those conversations had happened yet.
So I'll recognize Counselor Garrett if you're. If you'd like to say a word to this.
You're on mute, John. Maybe not.
Available?
I mean, I'm thinking multiple counselors would be interested in many of these subjects, but they're pretty big.
He's getting his headphones set.
Don't use the chat, John.
Public record, he had to get his headphones set up.
Yeah, but it's a violation.
That's a weird violation, because everyone can see it, right? Or if we read the,
But if someone that is visually impaired is logged in to hear the meeting, they can't.
so since we read his text, would we take care of that?
It's possible.
Okay. I'm just, that's great.
Hello, can you guys,
All right. Yeah.
Yep.
can you guys hear me?
Yes, yep.
Okay. Would you mind just the question that Clerk Scott was asking was about if have I talked to anybody, and I haven't. So this is really the very, very beginning. And so kind of my intention with this was to start a conversation, and honestly, like even just a suggestion of, talking to the planning board makes a ton of sense. So I'm, certainly in no rush to, go about this in anything other than kind of a thorough way. But so I don't know if that answers your question directly, but yeah, no, I'm very much open to suggestion about the form that this kind of discussion should take. The goal obviously is, kind of in the statement, in the email that I sent about like trying to, use these tools that we have available. But again, I'm very, very open to whatever makes the most sense in kind of the opinion of the folks who have done more of this stuff. Honestly, part of it was I didn't really know the history, like have some of these items come up before. If they have, I would love to know and why they haven't passed or have, what kind of the deal has been. So, anything else, or is that makes sense?
No, I think so. My initial thought is that it might be worth you or another counselor that's interested in this meeting with Director Twarog.
Okay.
Just to get some history for yourself and have
Yeah.
something to the very beginning. And that way you might be able to narrow it down. Because there'll be a lot of history, I think, on some of these.
Yeah, no doubt.
Eric is a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah,
on
and maybe
it.
trying to potentially narrow it down for August might give you a better idea for where to start with this.
Yeah, and so just I don't know if I said this in the email I sent to Counselor Bullock, and you guys, but this is all stuff that was part of it. Most of it was part of the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee meetings that we've been having. And
Mhm.
so, that was kind of the idea. It's like, well, I'm sitting in this meeting as a city council representative. It would be good to bring this back to at least a slightly larger segment of the city council than just me. So,
Yeah.
if talking to Director Twarog is the first step in doing that, then maybe we talk about it in EDC in August. That sounds great. So, is that probably the best path at this point?
Yeah, I think that your initial thought was to invite them to the meeting, and I'm curious
Oh.
if that might be more efficient. So that if they came to the meeting, all of the members could be part of that conversation. And then they wouldn't have to repeat themselves, have a
Mm.
conversation with Counselor Garrett. And to have a conversation potentially with the subcommittee, and Counselor Garrett wouldn't have to speak for them. Like maybe
Right.
if they were to have that on discussion, that work.
I think it could work. I just see a lot of bullet points.
There's
For
a
one,
lot.
for one meeting, that's the
Yeah.
only reason why I was thinking you might, just for narrowing down purposes, it might. Like in theory, if you met with someone and said, oh, 3 and 4 on here, that's gonna be like a whole meeting.
Okay,
That
Yeah.
was my only thought.
and so maybe Director Twark could come to could talk to Counselor Garrett and come to a meeting if Counselor Garrett thought that the
In
information was
August,
useful.
Right.
Yeah, in August. Yep, does that make sense?
Totally. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, again, part of the thought with this is like, where's the Venn diagram as far as city council members and the stuff on that kind of large list that people are interested in? Because I'm sure not everybody is going to want to do all the things on that. So, what can we do that we agree on was kind of my thought of bringing it to a committee. But talking to Director Twarog between now and August makes sense. And, I'm happy to go with whatever you guys think will be the best way of going about it.
So after you have a discussion with Eric Torog, it's possible that you may want to revise your recommendation if he says, oh, you can do that, or you can't do that, or whatever. So after you meet with him, will you send a follow-up
Mhm.
for the EDC August meeting?
Sure.
Is that,
Yeah, that sounds great.
okay?
Yeah.
I'll honestly probably just forward him the email.
Yeah.
Kind of a summary of this conversation.
Okay,
Excellent, thank you.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm glad I got some direction on this.
And then the last thing under notes is update from Wendy Goodman regarding the refugees at the Days Inn, which would probably be CRC. And I'm thinking that we should probably also invite ServiceNet for any kind of updates on that situation.
we'll be talking.
Yeah, that's what
CRC.
that's what I had in mind also. So I already did speak with Wendy Goodman and she's got, she wants to talk about some of the success stories and some of the challenges and sort of like, how this project is playing out. So I think having everybody there would be helpful. And I would say optional, but if the mayor wanted to come, because I know that Wendy is the mayor's liaison. So if she wanted to come and offer her perspective, but I understand she's also very, very busy.
And that's for the July CRC meeting, right?
I think we could do it in July if, I mean, unless we're not gonna have a quorum, but I was planning on being there.
Okay. That sounds good.
Is just out of curiosity, is ServiceNet spearheading that one? Because I know that there's a lot of organizations involved in that. So is that, I just didn't know if they were actually one of the organizations
I
specifically involved.
thought that they were the organization that was running the Days Inn operation. I don't know about.
Yeah, I
know where
think
the
they're the ones that
hierarchy
have
comes
the
down, 'cause
grant.
there's a lot of contributors to that, is all I know. On one level or another. So I'm not, I just, that was just my
If
curiosity.
we should consult the mayor's office and make sure that we invite anyone that might be relevant. Because I don't know. Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, my understanding is that ServiceNet has the grant from the state. But if there are other organizations involved, it would probably be good to have them involved in this too.
Okay. Okay, so committees, economic development will not meet this month. A&O has, let's see, those agenda items. Oh, that's right, there's also the code of conduct. And then adding our discussion items to that. Executive session minutes. The 565-2 rules. Under discussion.
The executive session, rules of procedure,
And the mayor, oh, that's already down there, mayor's appointment.
appointment to EDC. And then the code of conducts, code of conducts.
Yep,
Code of conduct.
and CRC looks right there. Did I get everything?
Yeah, I just want to say that I have not, this month has been, I've been off half of the month and conferences and things. I have not been able to give that the time that I was hoping to. So I'm glad that it's under the discussion. I'm not sure if it'll be ready to come for a motion. I think it's important that everyone weigh in on that. So I just want to give a heads up. I was hoping to do more than I was able.
But you want to leave it, you don't want to
Yeah, I
remove
think
it
that,
for now?
I think actually it's good for folks to be able to
Okay.
weigh in and share their thoughts about it.
And CRC looks like it's just that one item. Ways and means. Do we have anything? Ways and means?
Update on GSET.
Oh. I just feel after that huge, long discussion, I don't know that it,
Yeah. I don't know that it's really necessary at this point. Do you? I mean, I thought we got that
I thought
answers that.
there was a lot of in the weeds and a lot of information imparted in that.
Well, a couple thoughts. One, I wouldn't think, even if there was stuff to talk about, I would think that this is better done in the fall when people are more likely to come to a meeting. If residents are wanting to come to a meeting and there is a purpose for a meeting, I would say September might be a better time anyway. And I'm wondering if there's more information that might come forward that in the next couple of months or, yeah.
I was also thinking we might be able to wait till if there's ever a financial order or something that.
Right,
goes through
that's-
that would present itself.
Essentially, that's my, I mean, I think I've said this before, kind of subtly, which is weird for me, but,
Really?
subtly is.
New thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Is though I understand the concern that some folks on the council, residents have about where this is going and what's happening. We've also, I think, heard multiple times, whether or not we like the answer. We've heard why there are some delays, and the bigger caveat to that for me is not only has everyone who's dealt with utility companies realize that there are delays. Like I try to use the microcosm of you try to get solar on your house, solar company's like, here, we're good. Your panels are up there, but now you got to wait 2-3 months for the utility company to do anything. So they're bogged down with things. The issue we've heard about with the ownership of the poles and what can happen. And sorry, the caveat to it being that I'm not trying to overlook the spending concerns that have been brought up. Lack of a better term, I'm less concerned as a local member of the council because we're not spending our tax money. And I know everything is tax, ARPA's tax money, all of that stuff is tax money. I get it. And so I don't want to be irresponsible by saying that in the spending of that. However, the fact that it is an enterprise, we do have some oversight over it, but I think that while staying engaged with it, but also within our lane, I guess is what I'm trying to say is and not that we shouldn't be continuing to all that to say, not that we shouldn't be continuing to monitor, right, and have oversight that we do have. It's that I don't want us to get bogged down in the inner workings of a department, any department. That big, when some of it is out of the person's hands, you know, like, and also that being said, because there is a differentiation between the spending. So I'm just, it's more to point out those differences and not to like, I'm not trying to pick like one thing or the other that we should talk about more than the other. I'm just saying like, I think we've gotten some update for now. And as was mentioned, if in a couple months from now, we can ask for a new update, just like anything. Like, I mean, we're asking the rec department for an update on, and we do have more oversight over that one, but like we're asking the rec department for an update on what's happening with the trails, because we know money got spent for the trails. And some of that was FERCog money, right? But we want to know where it's at if we're going to appropriate anything else. So I think it's pertinent to know, to have the knowledge if we're going to, as you said, if another financial order were to come up, it would be a more pressing issue is I guess where I'm trying to go with that.
Can I
I
see
think I
if
said a lot of words to get to that final.
well, I just want to see if I'm understanding you.
Yeah.
Like there's two, I think what I hear you saying is there's kind of two lanes. One lane is like really our lane, which is approving financial orders.
Yeah.
And we definitely need to hear more before there's a next financial order. And then there's also our lane, which is to create a venue to monitor and listen to the department heads and what they're saying. And we just did have this conversation with Set like a month ago. And so it seems premature to you to have them give an update now, but it could be really fruitful. I think I hear you saying if we had, actually, I'm putting words in, I'm building off of what you just said.
Yeah.
That monitoring is important, like we do with any department. And when I hear you say that, I think if there were regular updates from GSET, like every 3 months, every 4 months, something like that, that would be understanding that we're not necessarily voting on something, but it is our job to create a venue for the public
Absolutely.
to hear what's happening. Okay,
Perfect.
okay, great, we did it.
Way better said.
So
That was
then,
where I was going.
so then
Right?
I would, because if the purpose is a public venue, I'm not on Ways and Means, and neither are the other counselors whose precincts are not currently fully covered. And also because the public is more likely to listen to a full city council meeting,
Mhm.
I would like to request that GSET has their update. And maybe it's not an in-depth conversation, and feel free to push back. But it seems to me that if they were to do the update at a full council meeting, that would have the representation of the precincts that are not currently covered and the ability for us to ask questions, and also for more public input. What do you?
I agree with that, and I think of that when other topics that were coming up, when I was saying earlier, like maybe these should just go to full councils for that same
Yeah.
reason. Also, I do remember, as I was saying it earlier, like that is the purpose of subcommittees is if we're just like, hey, let's just put on the agenda every 4 months, we're getting an update from GSET. So we're gonna get 3 times a year, we're getting an update. And we'll just have that as a standing thing at Ways and Means or wherever we land it. And it seems like a nothing. Then why have them come to full council, right? I mean, we can say we got an update, any department, really, right? Because I think what kind of helped me in the thought of that was when President Bottomley was just saying, like, if there's no financial order tied to it, it's just a request for information, and anybody at that point can request information. And though that is somewhat of a function of city council, it's not really a main
Well,
function is to get constant updates from we don't ask for constant updates from every single department.
I just want to make sure.
It just happens to be
An
focused.
update is pretty unfocused. And that's the only other thing because it kind of can set up sort of gotcha moments. And so if
That's true.
that's the only thing I worry about too, it'd be nice if some of those had agenda points, like the northern build out update or something specific rather than really general, so that when department heads are coming in, they're not necessarily going to get blindsided, but they have some agenda points, which we're supposed to do when we're having with the mayor.
Right.
Just so that if we have specifics to ask, it's usually a little better.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's kind of like in between, let's just say we were to do every 3 or 4 months. In between that is taking, like, I think as counselor, like the community concern and balling that up as an agenda point. We've talked about this for the other things in subcommittees and on full council it's not just the chair's job to come up with the ideas. It's when people are hearing from their constituents and they have these, if you're getting emails that aren't to the rest of us, well, forward it to the rest of us or compile that and be like, look, this is what I've heard in my precinct. And these are the questions they have in regards to this. And those can go to the appropriate subcommittee to be asked, right? And then if it seems, like I said, if it seems like a nothing, like, yeah, I live up in the north end. People that I'm around are like, hey, what's happening with the north build out? Sure. If we want to ask about the north build out and that's an agenda item, right? And we talk about it and we get an update and then we say, well, we got this new news in the last 3 months or this new news in the last 3 months. Cool. Well, we've satisfied that topic, and if there's others that come up, I'm just using this one, GSET as an example, but maybe this as a microcosm as a whole.
So do we think we're just having had that, well, it wasn't a city council meeting, but do you think that there would be much of an update like this soon?
So
Well, they were also at capital
questions.
or at operating meetings.
So I have a couple of things to respond to that. And with that, I'm wondering, you were at that meeting. When do you think it would be useful for GSET to give us another update?
Now you're on the spot.
Okay, and if you don't have I don't mean to put you on the
I
spot.
mean, I don't know, I'm just spitballing maybe the fall. I'm thinking maybe just give it a few months because if if I understood what they were saying, there were a lot of complex issues that I don't see there being any resolution in the next month. Based on what I heard.
So I would be grateful if you're sensing that the fall might be good. I'm fine if that's September, October. I also hear you saying that maybe not always having department heads always have to come to the full council. That makes sense to me. And because of the limited time that we had to ask them questions last time, I would be grateful for those of us who represent the uncovered areas to have an ability to ask questions. And my concern is if it was at Ways and Means, if, let's say, me and Counselor Healy and Counselor Gordon all showed up, that's unlikely, but let's say we did, we would form a quorum. We wouldn't be able to ask.
But also, you can always ask the questions. You can always email the clerk's office. You
That's
can
true.
have, we can always.
That's what I mean, is doing like, kind of that like ahead of time compilation of what could be presented at the subcommittee for questions because of quorum issues. Like, if you've got questions that you want me to ask at any counselor or anybody wants me to ask of somebody at a subcommittee meeting,
Because then.
then there'll be a
You
list.
said could potentially make a memo too, so like
Mm-hmm.
if they get like, we could even solicit to counselors have.
Right.
Questions, and then that could be forwarded to full council, the response.
Part of what happens is that, well, a couple of things. One, in theory, what you said about forwarding constituents' emails would be helpful. I completely agree. I honestly don't get that many emails. It was more when I canvassed and I knocked on all the doors of the regular voters, it was one of the issues that people talked about the most. But people don't email me from precinct one on many issues at all. And so I don't think that the lack of emails means the lack of interest, but I
Sure.
don't have that many emails. And I find that sometimes the follow-up questions, I know that those take time and I get that we're all volunteering. And I might have a follow-up question that you might not know to ask, for example. And so I could forward questions and I would be happy to, but without the ability to ask a follow-up question, like I think that I can call them privately. But I think that there needs to be some type of, I think it would be beneficial for the residents who are covered by counselors who are not on Ways and Means and
So should I
that be-
just sort of tentatively put down do you think September update?
yeah, that's fine.
'Cause I also think it's not bad.
I think what you're saying is like more of a function. It's a function of the way the government is set up. Unfortunately, so there's no back and forth all the time.
But that
And
way, yeah.
you may have a
Can be.
follow-up question, and even if we're at full council, there's still only so much of a limit of
Right,
what the back and forth can really go.
but there's
You know,
more.
There is
There's
more,
more
there
at a
is
full
more, but,
council.
and so I agree with you, and that's why I
On the
was
September.
suggesting that earlier, like, oh, well, if these things are bigger, if they seem to be a big enough concern, I believe as well that we should bring them to full council. I just don't want our full council meetings to honestly just be a back and forth with every department head
Yeah,
all the time,
Neither
you know what I
do I.
mean? So
Yeah.
that's what I mean by gauging, and I think the subcommittee is a good buffer
and
for that.
I agree. If we veered in that direction, I would also not like that and argue against it. There's no, I mean, my constituents also had a long list of DPW related things. And so I sat down with Marlo because I can get the answers that are helpful. And, you know, the sign went up and the potholes were fixed. And so I didn't have to, there's no other department that I feel that in order to advocate for my constituents, I have to advocate for this type of meeting. But if there was, then that would be another conversation. And I would agree that we wouldn't want to do that all the time.
And just so you know, at that meeting, and maybe we can find where it is. I don't know, is it possible to forward a video of that GSET meeting to counselors?
That would be,
Yeah.
that would be great.
It's public.
Who recorded it? Was GCTV there?
No,
Did
It
GSET
must have
record
been
it?
GSET,
GSET meeting.
but I think that would be helpful.
What was the approximate date of it?
What's in the paper?
June? Early June?
Early
I
June?
want to say it's early June, wasn't it?
Oh, they did, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, but we have talked about perhaps also that maybe GSEC could put some of this information on their website so that customers could actually see and know some of these, even though it gets into the weeds, just so that people have the information.
So if
Yeah.
GSA recorded it, which I believe.
Yeah.
It's on their YouTube channel.
Okay,
So counselors,
Yep.
we don't need to send it to them.
No,
Counselors
we don't
can
need to
just
do
go
that.
to YouTube and
yeah.
find it there.
Okay, so, and then on the end of our city clerk report,
Um,
I mean, so ultimately, I'm not gonna hold a meeting this month.
this month, yeah.
Yay, believe
Can't believe it. Wow, can't believe it.
So there are executive session minutes that need to be reviewed to be released. Could hold an executive session with the July meeting. We're already theoretically holding an executive session at the August meeting for security, different purpose. If you're going to hold a meeting for the approval of minutes, I would suggest bringing our attorney in, whether it would be Attorney Quinn. I can't remember Layla's last name, Attorney Layla. I can't remember, it's gone.
Clapping.
Just to get the advice of the attorney, whether the minutes should remain confidential or, like we did last time.
Mhm.
Do you want to have an executive session for minutes in July? And then another one in August? What would you like to do?
I mean, the July meeting is looking really, really sparse, so it might be good to have it on there just to. Instead of piling it all on one, but what do you think?
I don't know, I personally would say, why don't we do it in August? We're already going into executive session.
We'll be in it.
Maybe we do it at the beginning, so we're not paying a lawyer for the whole night. And do that portion first,
To do the minutes?
and then we can
the
dismiss the
security?
lawyer
Okay.
Okay,
for the part
so
we don't need. I don't know, that's just.
that's fine with me too, so put,
And then also because the executive obviously has to be there as well. It's in
Okay,
the event we don't need the mayor for.
okay.
that's a helpful reminder. I was thinking about doing it at the end, but the reason we do it at the beginning, so that so it doesn't take time away from the public, but the reason we do it at the beginning is because of return fees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think we do it, after approval of minutes, well, it doesn't really matter. You do the pledge and then you can go directly into executive session, or you can do the pledge, the minutes, and then go on, but pledge and then executive session, probably.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, the other executive session wouldn't have mattered as much because it didn't require an attorney to be there, so. we couldn't
Okay.
have it
Right.
wherever.
okay, that was my second.
I just figured if we're gonna
If we're
break
there,
away from.
that's true, just do it all at
Don't-
once.
Okay. And there will be two reasons we will go into executive session. They will be separated. One will be for the security and one will be for the review of minutes, which I think is number 7.
And we'll get those minutes in a secure form to look at before.
They'll be sent out before the August committee meeting in the secure email, like we have done before. Attorney included, and it'll only be up for a certain amount of days, like we usually set.
Excellent, so that is it for our agenda tonight. Anything else?
Don't you want to review the agenda for the council
Oh.
meeting? I mean, it's huge.
Yes.
Huge.
Huge. It's appointments. Oh, health.
That really? That really? Is this actually?
That
That's
is
it.
actually Board of Health, not Health Department.
Right, that's it though, right?
I might send you all things from A&O. There are things that we're.
Oh, okay,
There may be, but
Being there.
after your meeting, I'm just gonna look at a calendar.
Yeah, Mondays. Tuesdays.
So,
Wednesdays.
Wednesday, neither.
A&O is on July 10th. if you're sending something for the council meeting, you have to send it the next day, just so that we know what you have, because Tammy will then put the packet together on the 12th, so that then we can get it out.
Okay, so I've been asking Counselor Gordon to take notes. I have not been doing that, and I believe that she leaves them in the bag.
I think so,
So is that enough? Do I need to?
as long as we know what's coming forward. You may want to just follow it up with a phone call to Tammy
Okay,
on Thursday morning to say, so this is going to council or nothing for council, that sort of thing.
to-do list, so, but I don't. Okay,
Because again, I won't be here. I'll be at school up in New Hampshire the next week.
school in New Hampshire?
Yes, clerk school.
Is that fun?
It's called NEMCA. It's a lot of fun, but it's exhausting. Like you have classes from,
Sleepovers?
you're in a dorm. Yeah, so you start class at 8 in the morning and you often don't get out until 8, 9 o'clock at night.
You gotta do keg stands. so-
Of course not. No, I've never seen a keg stand done. So, yeah, it is very enjoyable. There's like, you can sit down and talk to anybody about anything because they're all clerks in election offices and that sort of thing. So it is good, but it's also a little exhausting on the pace.
Cool,
Yeah.
hope it's fun. So you're gonna be there, and so I'm gonna call Tammy. So-
Yes, or you can call Quinn.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
The other thing which we should try to remind the whole council too, is that if there's questions for the mayor, hopefully we can avoid what happened last time when there's no agenda items. Again, just so that if there's anything that the mayor needs to prepare. If we've got any questions, updates on anything that anyone can think of, I'll try to list them if I can think of something. That we might need an update on buildings or
Hopefully
something.
before Friday morning, so we can include it in the packet.
Right. So is that it?
That's it.
Done
All
and
right, I
done.
guess I'll take a motion to adjourn. So,
I'll second that.
all those in favor?
Hi.
Against? Abstain? Motion passes.
6:50
Sorry,
PM.
I'm an I didn't get my mute button off in time.
Boot, boot.
All
Thank
right.
you.